I want to talk about a recent video that we showed and had up on our website at winnipegsun.com. It's still there. You can look at it from the health minister. And we'll take a moment here and take a quick look at the video.
I love your daughter. What do you have to offer? Nothing. Only this. What's that supposed to be about, baby? Coffee on your mind, stop dancing, you know it.
All right, so this video, to put it into context for you, Royce, as I'm sure you've read the article, is that there was a woman in the healthcare system. She had an open wound. She was stuck in the hospital for days and days. I had the privilege and the honor, quite frankly, of interviewing her from the hospital bed. And she was, I think it was 17 days. She sat in the hospital with an open wound to a point where her ligaments were so damaged that one of the options, and really the best option, was to amputate her leg. And, in talking with Roseanne, which is the woman's name, and her husband, Dan, we talked about the video coming out. And a lot of people criticized the video on our comments, but some protected the health minister for the video. And I got to tell you, I think it's unprofessional. And I think that this is where Wab Kinew has to be a true leader and come in and say, okay, that's unnecessary. We're sending you back down. Like, we're not going to have you as health minister right now. We have to learn to be more respectful of the office. What are your thoughts on that video?
Yeah, I mean, so politicians, they have these different roles. They have to win elections, but they also have to, kind of maintain support from their own supporters, within the party. And for the NDP in particular, that includes young people. And so being on Instagram, or on these different social media channels, it's a way to do that. It's a way to stay in touch with these younger voters and to stay connected to them in a way that other ways just don't work. And so politicians, especially in the NDP, other kind of left wing parties, they do put time into this. For this video, yeah. I mean, where healthcare is in a rough state in Manitoba, and there's real consequences for that, as you've documented. People suffer terribly. It's an important job. It's a serious job. And yeah, I think that that sort of thing doesn't reflect that kind of that kind of communication. It doesn't reflect the seriousness of the job. I would certainly not have advised her or any health minister facing the circumstances that we are right now in Manitoba, also in Canada in general, to be doing that kind of communication. I think it's ill-advised.
Well, and I think you're right, especially because you have an office of the minister. You're responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars. You're responsible for the health and well-being of, almost 2 million people, maybe a little bit more now. It just seems irresponsible. It seems childish to turn to a platform like that to do something like that from, which appears to be the health minister's office with a desk wrapped in Christmas paper. That's fine. If you want to have a little bit of lightheartedness at the office, you kind of need that if you're in a stressful position. But you're right. The health system is not just in a difficult position, Royce. The health system, we have to sooner or later admit, is broken. Like, it's broken. And it's been running on flat tires for a very long time. And until we introduce some really significant wholesale change and really evaluate the health system, I think we can't have ministers in there that are playing popular games as opposed to addressing the real concerns of Manitobans.
Yeah, I don't want to begrudge, everything. I remember when the PCs were in power, Audrey Gordon posted a picture of herself on social media drinking a Slurpee, and some NDP critics and people said, like, "Oh, how dare the health minister encourage unhealthy lifestyles?" And it was just kind of an eye-rolling moment. Say, "Oh, give me a break! Like, these people are more than just ministers." So yeah, like, I don't want to go crazy and condemning this kind of stuff. I think that the concern, if I was Wab Kinew, if I was an NDP person in Manitoba, is that people are worried about healthcare. They see it as a serious challenge, and the concern is that kind of messaging sends the message potentially the minister is doing things that not taking it seriously.
Well, I mean,
And so that would be the concern.
let's talk about what you said though. And the fact is it's incredibly hypocritical. right? So, because you're right, the NDP would call out members of the Conservative for putting up pictures like that, or for putting certain things on social media, and here they are doing the exact same thing when they get into power. So to me, it's hypocritical, right? Again. I want elected officials, and I've always believed that an elected officials should exude confidence. So that I want to have, as somebody who pays a lot of money in taxes, right? It doesn't matter how much money you make, you're paying a lot of your salary is going to taxes. I want to have confidence
Yeah,
that the people that are in office are going to do their job professionally, that they're going to take their job seriously. And that means maybe Wab Kinew needs to come out and put a social media policy to all the ministers, to all members of his caucus. I think any political leader for that matter should have a social media policy where, listen, we have a job. This is our job. Yes, you have to connect with voters and you have to connect with the people, but you have to represent the office with respect, with integrity, and with professionalism.
yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important to note too that politicians increasingly do this. You know, party like conservative politicians do it in different ways. Conservative politicians, I think, are very good on Twitter and on Facebook. You know, if you follow conservative members of parliament, you know, they seem like professionally produced 8-minute videos. It's surprising like how frequently these get put out, and so it looks different for the party. Like I say, it's the NDP, it's parties of the left that are on places like Instagram using that annoying format where you're like pointing at that I don't quite understand, but I'm also not a young person. I'm an old guy. And so politicians do this. I don't want to begrudge that entirely. I do think that when bad things are happening, I would exercise more caution if I was in that role, certainly if I was advising these ministers.
Well, that's it. It's good to understand. Good, and I appreciate your point as always. I'd rather just see political leaders take a tough stance on this. You're getting paid a lot of money to do a really important job, and we need you to be professional at all times. Period. And that's how I look at that. But I mean, you make some very valid points. You don't want to continuously attack people for this kind of stuff. But it's a little hypocritical and such. But we'll leave it at that for right now. Thank you very much for your time, and look forward to talking to you again next week.